You might look at the card you dealt and say that it ain't fair, but be careful. In our struggles, that's when God is most near. What a blessing. The mysteries of God is so interesting. Like how I got free will, but still predestined. The spirit that fills me, it resurrected Jesus. We looking death in the eye like, yo, you can't defeat us. So I tell them, whatever comes, whatever go, the Lord's teaching me he's in control. And if I never had anything.
Good afternoon, Sirs Youth Group. This is Ryan here. And as usual, I'm super excited because I'm coming to you with the fourth lesson in our video teaching series, and it's titled, Don't Be Entangled. And today we're going to be reading out of 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 4. And I'm going to read this out of a New King James Version and out of the Amplified Version. And here in 2 Timothy, we have Paul who's speaking to Timothy. And for those of you who don't know, Paul and Timothy basically had a father and son relationship. So, Paul saw Timothy as his son in the faith. Paul had seen Timothy grow in his walk with the Lord and become, spiritually mature. And so Paul is writing to Timothy, and now at this time, Timothy is a pastor of a huge church at this time. And so Timothy's full-time doing ministry, doing all this stuff. He's walking out the plan of God for his life. And Paul is talking directly to Timothy, and he's giving him some practical advice. Just like a father would say to a son, Paul is giving some practical wisdom and some practical advice to Timothy, who's his son in the faith. And in 2 Timothy chapter 2, we're going to start off in verse 4. Paul says to Timothy, "No one engaged in warfare entangles himself with the affairs of this life, that he may please him who enlisted him as a soldier." Now, I want to also read this out of the Amplified Version. And in 2 Timothy chapter 2, verse 4, Amplified Version, it says, "No soldier, when in service, gets entangled in the enterprises of civilian life. His aim is to satisfy and please the one who enlisted him." Now, guys, this scripture is so important for you all and for us as believers, because whether you realize it or not, you are a soldier in God's army. God has enlisted you in his army. You're a soldier in the army of God. And Paul is saying to Timothy, he's saying, a soldier who's engaged in warfare, a soldier that is in active duty, that soldier does not entangle themselves in the affairs of this life. In other words, what Paul is talking about is you and I getting entangled in the things of the world, entangled in what the world has to offer us. It could be, distractions. It could be friends. It could be social media. It could be a sport that maybe you do. Paul is telling Timothy, be careful of those things that the world has to offer you, and be careful that it doesn't end up entangling you. In other words, something that entangles me, it's something that gets me caught up. It's something that somehow restricts my movement and hinders my movement in some way. And Paul is saying, look, if you get too caught up in the things of the world, it will hinder your spiritual walk with God. It will hinder your relationship with God if you choose to become so invested in the things of the world that you really lose sight of where your focus really should be. And that's your focus should be on the warfare that you're currently engaged in. And Paul says in the Amplified Version of verse 4, he says, the aim of this soldier is to satisfy and please the one who enlisted him. So as a soldier, guys, as a soldier in God's army, God is the one who enlisted you. So as a soldier in that army, your first aim, your first goal should be to please God, who enlisted you as a soldier in his army. And so, guys, I just want to encourage you with this scripture, regardless of what it is that you feel may be a distraction to you. Like I said, it could be friends, it could be social media, could be, a sport that maybe you're involved in. Paul is telling Timothy, be careful of those things that demand your energy and demand your effort and demand your time. Be careful that you don't get too caught up in doing those things to the point whereas you lose sight of where your focus really should be. And guys, I want you to think about this image. Paul uses the idea of a soldier, and he says that no soldier when in service or when in warfare allows themselves to become entangled. And I want you to think of a battle going on, and I want you to think of a soldier who's fighting the battle. that soldier can't afford to get sidetracked by something else, because if you're in the heat of the battle and you're warring against an opponent who's trying to kill you, if you allow yourself to get caught up in something else and shift your attention away from the battle that you're currently engaged in, you may very well end up dying. That being entangled may end up costing you your life. And so Paul, he's talking to Timothy, and he says, look, you can't end up in that condition. Don't allow yourself to get to that point. So I just encourage you guys to, with this scripture, take a moment and really evaluate your life and ask yourself, are there things that I'm involved in that's demanding too much from me? Are there things that I'm involved in that's demanding too much of my time, too much of my effort, too much of my energy, to the point whereas my relationship with God is kind of being put on the back burner, being put on the back seat while I focus on all these other things? So guys, I appreciate you for watching. Thank you so much. As I always say, we're going to post this video on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. It can also be viewable through YouTube. So once you get a chance, definitely check them out. Definitely share them on your timeline. Tell your friends about them. And I encourage you, leave your comments. We want to dialogue with you. We want to have a conversation with you. If this is a study or a scripture that spoke directly to you, we want to hear about it. I mean, if you have a practical example of how this applies to your life, we want to hear from you. So guys, again, thank you so much for watching, and I will be coming to you again soon with another lesson. Have a great day.
Good Friday, but why they call it good? An innocent man was beaten and nailed in the wood. It's only through the lens of grace we see who that really should have been hanging from that tree, who them nails should have been put in. Me, the only place the world has ever seen.